Do that already.
Oh, a lot of hard work. Yeah.
Any debate about laws reform should start with identifying the problem we're trying to fix. And there's none more serious than the rapid decline of public trust in the political class, in Parliament and in our democratic system. And it signals the democratic deficit which this House has a duty to address. Now, Keir Starmer promised to restore public trust during the general election campaign. Now, I'm not going to rehearse all that he's presided over since July to make matters worse, but I do want to highlight the Prime Minister's misplaced belief that the Conservatives alone caused this widespread public disaffection. We Conservatives certainly deserve our fair share of the blame, but if we are to address the cause of public distrust, the Labour Party must also acknowledge their role in creating this sorry state, and so should all sides of this House. Trust nosedived in the years after 2016 because of our collective reaction to the public's verdict on our collective failures as a political class. If campaigning for a second referendum and frustrating Brexit legislation wasn't bad enough, Labour, the Lib Dems, many crossbenchers, the bishops, and even some of my Labour friends sought to frustrate and dilute legislation designed to control immigration and strengthen our borders, which flew in the face of what the majority had voted for. My Lords, in every one of the 5 sessions of Parliament after the 2017 general election, this House defeated the Conservative government in more than 60% of divisions. And in 4 out of 5 of those sessions, the rate of government defeats almost topped 70%. That was unprecedented. Now, I know there were some improvements to these bills because of this House's scrutiny, and it is not the role of the House of Lords to make life easier for the government of the day, whichever party is in power. But it is the role of this House of Lords not to add to the public's impression that they are being condescended to and looked down on by a bunch of unelected elites. And as much as it pains me to say so, that is how we appeared to many of the people we exist to serve. Now, what's ironic, bearing in mind what we're discussing today, is that in the division lobbies, the majority of hereditary peers voted in step with the public on Brexit and immigration. So contrary to Labour's description of them as indefensible, based on their actions, which is how I was brought up to judge people who were born different to me, the Viscounts, Earls and hereditary barons of this House were the only category of peers the majority of the British people could rely on for their support. Which brings me to the government's proposed interim reforms of this House, whilst an elected second chamber remains a promise on the never-never. I personally have little objection to a retirement age, and I'm all for us doing more to remove any peer who doesn't pull their weight. However, I have concerns about a participation requirement because it risks either being meaningless or creating perverse incentives. And giving the House of Lords Appointments Commission more powers over prime ministerial nominations worries me because anything in that direction would dilute yet further democratic accountability. As to removing the remaining hereditary peers, as a Democrat, I accept the government has a mandate to do that, and if it succeeds, no future government will reverse their removal. But not only will their departure not improve our democratic deficit, none of the government's proposed measures to reform the House of Lords will make any difference to what really matters in the eyes of the public. Indeed, they add up to displacement activity without meaningful change to how we go about some of our business. My Lords, the electorate deserve respect and for their legitimate demands to be taken seriously, especially when the majority of peers disagree. They need to know we will apply our best efforts to meeting their objectives, not our own. That's the real democratic deficit that exists between Parliament and the public we serve, and the problem they need us to fix. And addressing it is how this House can contribute to democracy and secure its own future for the long term.